The Senate will please come to order. We'll begin this Wednesday morning with a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements this morning? We will move then to referrals under Rule 31. H96, an act relating to creating the Truth and Reconciliation Commission affecting the expenditures of Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. H482, an act relating to the Petroleum Cleanup Fund, being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. And H606, an act relating to community resilience and biodiversity protection, being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. This brings us to the orders of the day. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I would like to take up the capital bill, please.
We will now move to the capital bill, which is H739. An act relating to capital construction. Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Unfortunately, one of our members is missing at this moment, so it would be premature to take up the capital bill without his being here.
Would the senator like to take up the third reading?
Thank you, Madam President.
We'll begin with third readings. The first third reading is H266, an act relating to health insurance coverage for hearing aids. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. Are there any amendments before third reading on H266? Please listen to the third reading of H266.
H266, an act relating to health insurance coverage for hearing aids.
You've heard the third reading. The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H266 concurrence. We also have on the calendar for a third reading, H293, an act relating to creating the State Youth Council. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H293.
H293, an act relating to creating the State Youth Council.
You've heard the third reading. The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H293 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading, H462, an act relating to miscellaneous Department of Health programs. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H400. The senator from Rutland is recognized.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. We had a short amendment. Does the Secretary have? It's in the under 308. And as I explained yesterday during my floor report, it just changed the date of the drug kiosks in pharmacies from the end of 2022 to July 1st of 2020.
Just to give everyone a moment to access the amendment, which is on the calendar today. The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Senator from Rutland? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the Senator from Rutland. Are there any additional amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 462.
H 462, an act relating to miscellaneous Department of Health programs.
Heard the third reading. The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence as amended? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H 462 as amended. We now have on the calendar for third reading H 505. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. 505 is an act relating to reclassification of penalties for unlawfully possessing, dispensing, and selling a regulated drug. Are there any amendments before third reading? Senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. There were two questions that came up during second reading, and I wanted to just quickly address them. The first was about the advisory board created in 505 to study benchmark personal use for each category of regulated drug. The question was, what are the regulated drugs listed under 18 VSA 4201 subchapter 29? And those drugs are A, narcotic drug, B, a depressant or stimulant other than methamphetamine, C, a hallucinogenic drug, D, ecstasy, E, cannabis, or F, methamphetamine. And then the other question was regarding the title of the commissioner, which another bill that we had worked on changed. So the new name, assuming that new bill passes, will be the Deputy Commissioner for Substance Abuse Programs. But July, but the Secretary has recommended that the language in our current bill remain as is, that there won't be significant confusion about who the person named is. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor?
Point of order. I don't believe we've had third reading, perhaps.
Senator, you are correct. Please listen to the third reading of H 505.
H 505, an act relating to reclassification of penalties for unlawful possessing, dispensing, and selling a regulated drug.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H 505 concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H 515, an act relating to banking, insurance, and securities. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 515.
H 515, an act relating to banking, insurance, and securities.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H 515 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H 655, an act relating to telehealth licensure and registration and to provisional licensure for professions regulated by the Office of Professional. Third reading was ordered. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 655.
H 655, an act relating to telehealth licensure and registration and to provisional licensure for professions regulated by the Office of Professional Regulation.
You've heard the third reading. The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and you've passed H 655 in concurrence. We now have on the calendar for third reading H 741. An act relating to approval of amendments to the Charter of the City of St. Albans. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 741.
H 741, an act relating to approval of amendments to the Charter of the City of St. Albans.
Heard the third reading. The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and you've passed H 741 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading an act relating to approval of amendment to the Charter of the City of Burlington, H 744. Third reading was ordered on April 26th. Amendments before third reading. Please listen to the third reading of H 744.
H 744, an act relating to approval of an amendment to the Charter of the City of Burlington.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
No.
Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed H 744. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to go back again to H 739 and take up the capital bill.
Now move to H 739, an act relating to capital construction and state bonding budget adjustment. Read for the first time on March 31st. Referred to the Committee on Institutions. Reports that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 3295, 3307 of today's calendar. That when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that when so amended as recommended by the Committee on Institutions, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 700.
H 739, an act relating to capital construction and state bonding budget adjustment.
Senator from Caledonia, Senator Benning is recognized for the report of the Committee on Institutions.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I'd like to begin the presentation by being cognizant that we have a YouTube audience. And I want to take a brief moment to explain to those who may be watching this process for the first time. The capital bill is responsible for all of the state's brick and mortar. And the conversation we're about to have actually incorporates the 2-year budget cycle. Many of the things that were discussed in your committee and presented a year ago on the floor involved the bulk of what this bill is now taking a slight tweak to. So it's going to be a conversation that began 2 years ago. We are now expressing tweaks that have been made since then. The process is essentially this. A group called Capital Debt Advisory Committee meets with the state treasurer, figures out how much the state can bond for within reason. The treasurer then comes to the governor, and the governor's recommendation as to what the capital bill should be. From that point, the treasurer comes to the respective institutions committees and describes what they are most comfortable with by way of bonding authority, and the committees decide how they want to spend the money that would be bonded for. I am awaiting, Madam President, for 2 documents to be handed out, and I will try to explain what those are with just basic information about how we look at them. First document I would like to refer to, Madam President, I think everybody has a copy, is this long spreadsheet that is in multiple colors. If you look down the middle of the page, you will see a column marked Act 50 as enacted. This is the actual bill that began 2 years ago. We ended up with the bill being passed in this session. The column to the right of that with the yellow highlighting is the governor's current budget adjustment recommendations. Column to the right of that in red, the red room next door, are the House changes that have been made from the governor's recommendation. Column in blue is what your committee has had for a reaction to either the governor's recommend or the other bodies recommend. Pause to note, Madam President, that when we were putting this color scheme together, originally it was in green, but I looked and received some comments that folks who are actually colorblind cannot see green. And so we changed it to blue just for the body's information. The columns are going to be referred to by my committee members as we proceed through this discussion. I will say again that the bulk of our conversation was actually dealt with a year ago. So we may not be as up to speed on what we knew a year ago on all of the specific itemized lists. We will take a break and ask for clarification from Ledge Council and from JFO if that is necessary during this question and answer session that may follow. Referring to section 1, you don't see a whole lot of information on that spreadsheet, but you will find that information on page 3207, I believe it is, of today's calendar. There are only 2 things being accomplished by section 1. We're talking about amending amounts that were authorized in the first year of the biennium. That's an exercise that we go through every year. We adjust figures after the fact as they become known to us with clarity in the second year of the biennium. The more important piece of that particular conversation in section 1 is that we are adding intent language about the use of ARPA funds in the second year of the biennium, which would address the impacts of COVID-19 and offset capital projects that are paid for using bonded dollars. There will be some more conversation about that later, but at this moment, I'm going to hand off to my colleague on the Civil Institutions Committee.
Senator from Essex Orleans to recognize.
Thank you, Madam President. Section 2 deals with state buildings. It appropriates funds in FY 2023 to the Department of Buildings and General Services. It amends the FY 2023 appropriations of BGS major maintenance from $7.35 million to $7.96521 million. It deletes the FY 2023 appropriations of BGS engineering and architectural project costs and adds it to the big bill. It amends the FY 2023 appropriations for 32 Cherry Street from $865,000 to $565,000. It amends the FY 2023 appropriations for the State House HVAC renovation from $2,535,000 to $6.8 million. It deletes the FY 2023 appropriations for the BGS 3-acre parcel stormwater planning, design, and implementation. It appropriates $2 million in FY 2023 for parking garage repairs for 108 Cherry Street in Burlington. It appropriates $750,000 in FY 2023 for the door control systems replacement at the Southern State Correctional Facility. It appropriates $400,000 in FY 2023 for the demolition, salvage, dismantling, and improvements to the former Southern State Correctional Facility property in Windsor. I might add that there are currently no plans to do any of that, but we felt it was important to put that money in there in case we could move on that. It appropriates $1.4 million in FY 23 for renovations to the Office of Legislative IT and shared common space at 133 State Street. Section 3 is a human service section and appropriates funds in FY 2023 to the Agency of Human Services. It appropriates $3.2 million in FY 23 for design and construction for a secure residential recovery facility. It appropriates $1.2 million in FY 2023 for stateside correctional facilities for ADA improvements. It appropriates $500,000 in FY 2023 for statewide correctional facilities for HVAC programming, schematic design, and design documents. It appropriates $1 million in FY 23 for capital grants for nursing schools for renovations or expansions of simulation laboratories. Section 4 deals with commerce and community development. It adds language in FY 23 for the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. It adds language directing the Division of Historic Preservation to conduct a facilities condition assessment of all building structures of the state historical sites within 5 years, including a cyclical update plan, prioritization for buildings and structures open to the public. It adds language stating that the intent of the General Assembly is to encourage the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum to explore all options for the ongoing use of the schooner Lois McClure. And Section 5 is for the Vermont State Colleges. It appropriates funds in FY 23 to the Vermont State Colleges. It amends FY 2023 appropriations for infrastructure planning and space transformation and increases the amount to $900,000. Madam President, I now yield to the junior senator from Franklin.
The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Section 6 of the bill amends appropriations and the 2021 acts and resolves 50, Section 9, natural resources. So if you're looking at your budget on the table, this will be in Section 9 of that budget, but Section 6 of the bill of the budget adjustment. Section 6 appropriates funds in FY 23 to the Agency of Natural Resources. The FY 23 appropriations for safety and hydrology projects and adds new appropriations in FY 23 of $3.1 million for improvements to the high and significant hazard dam program. It adds FY 23 appropriation for $190,000 for the rehabilitation of the Little Hosmer Dam. It adds FY 2023 appropriation of $2.8 million as a state match from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funds for drinking and clean water revolving funds. This does require that the funds are not released until a federal grant has been received by the state. Section 6 also amends the FY 23 appropriation for Forest Parks and Rec for maintenance from $4.476 million to $4.25 million. And you'll hear later on about how some of those funds ended up in the ARPA allocation. And it amends the FY 23 appropriation for Forest Parks and Rec for the rustic cabin construction program from $500,000 to $700,000. And it requires that FPR not use more than $200,000 from this appropriation to work with career and technical education centers for assistance with the program. And then the FY 23 appropriation to the Agency of Natural Resources for the Department of Fish and Wildlife Projects. Section 7 deals with the clean water initiatives and appropriates in FY 23 for those initiatives. It deletes the FY 22 appropriation of $500,000 to an A&R for forestry access roads. Again, those will come up later with ARPA. Deletes the lump sum of FY 23 appropriation of $11 million to A&R for clean water implementation projects. It makes allocations to each agency and department in FY 23. It Appropriates $200,000 to the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets for water quality grants and contracts. Appropriates $1.54 million to the Department of Environmental Conservation for the Clean Water Revolving Fund. Appropriates $2.7 million to the Department of Environmental Conservation for Municipal Pollution Control grants. And it appropriates to VHCB, the Vermont Housing Conservation Board, $400,000 for agricultural water quality projects and $2 million for land conservation and water quality projects. Section 8 appropriates funds in FY23 to the Department of Military. It amends the FY23 appropriations to the Department of Military for maintenance and renovations at state armories from $900,000 to $1.1 million. Section 9 appropriates funds in FY23 public safety. It appropriates $3.5 million in FY23 for construction of the new Williston Public Safety Field Station. Section 10 appropriates funds to the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. It amends the appropriation of FY23 to the Agency of Ag, Food and Markets for maintenance of the Vermont building at the Eastern State Exposition from $350,000 to $1.4 million and adds in language for modernization planning and design. At this point, Madam President, I would like to yield to the member from Grand Isle, Senator Miller.
Senator from Grand Isle is recognized.
Madam President, if it seems a little confusing to follow, it is to us also. All the facts are all there, but there's a lot of changes in the sections. Madam President, I have section 11. We start off that it is now Sergeant of Arms section. Appropriates $185,000 for upgrades at 2 Aiken Avenue. The floor up there, we're going to put it back. Use it. There's a lot of empty space around here, so that's going to go there. Section 12 deals with the Department of Public Safety, Williston Public Safety Office. We are moving that location. It's been there for many, many years. It's old, dilapidated, and we're going to move it up the road a little bit. For the new facility, the construction has started, and we're continuing to it year. Also, the Middlesex field office is going to be moved to Berlin, State Police, and that also needs upgrading. And also, we have a feasibility study in the Vermont Police Academy in Pittsburgh. Section 13 is the Eastern States Exposition Building. Major maintenance. That building has been there for many, many years. It needs maintenance very badly. We are putting $350,000 into that. And the future, we're also looking at the future of it. It needs some real major renovations. As you know, the Big E is a very successful every year, 17 days, draws thousands and thousands of people to that building, and but it needs badly needed renovations of that building. Section 14, the hydrant program. It's been around for many years, and every year they around $100,000 for continue to upgrade the dry hydrant program throughout the state, which is very beneficial when fires, and they need that hydrant program. So it's been very successful, and we need it for the future. With that, Madam President, I now yield to the Senator McCormick.
Senator from Windsor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I draw Senator's attention to the big spreadsheet. Section 16 deals with the Housing and Conservation Board. It allocates $1,800,000. And it is, if one looks at the spreadsheet, it's a love fest between the governor, the other body, and your institutions committee. We are all agreeing. So too with section 17, which is digital services, starting with the governor's recommend and going through the other body and ourselves, $125,000. Section 17A has to do with upgrades to 2 Aiken, which is right over there. Sprinklers at $185,000. We concur with the House they will put that money in. Also for the Sergeant at Arms, which is already referenced. Section 18. I was confused by Section 18 until I got a good explanation from BGS. Because this is a 2-year budget, when you budget, there's always an element of anticipating the future, trying to take what you know and extrapolating to what you don't know, and it has to do with your best informed guess as to what's going to happen. Such guesses invariably turn out to be less than 100% right. And what happens is that there are times when we find ourselves with money we didn't think we were going to have because we've allocated money we didn't have to spend. The example that was given me was anticipating having to deal with contamination of soil in a parking lot, which the soil turned out to be clean. And so there's money, and that's actually what this Section 18 does, is it's a true up. And again, pretty much a love fest between the governor and the House and us, except, and this is, when you see differences in numbers, it's because information becomes available over time. So the governor based his recommendations on the money he knew to be available. Different amounts were available to the other body, and yet different amounts. The most notable allocations, which is to say, I'm going to deal with things in the multiples of hundreds of thousands of dollars. The totals, and it's a difference between the governor and us, but again, this is because there was more money available to the legislature than to the governor. The total $1,334,374 recommended by the governor, $3,539,014 recommended by the other house, and we have concurred with the House. And that is dealing with a variety of allocations. Major maintenance, Westminster Department of Public Safety facility, something identified as various projects, and then several other lines of various projects. But again, the total of reallocated money, sort of found money, is, as I've said. I believe I am now to return the festivities to the chair of the committee.
The senator from Caledonia, the chair of the committee, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, Madam President, I would like to turn to what your Senate committee actually did in reacting to both the governor and the other body, and ask you to now turn to this single page that has simply green highlighting. I'm going to start at the very bottom of the page where it says cash fund balance. The governor had made a recommendation along with the treasurer about creating a portion of this bill to have a cash fund component that would effectively take care of things without having to bond, because we were flush with all of this federal money. The idea was to simply set aside a chunk and have the opportunity to pay for things as you go instead of bonding further. Through the Appropriations Committee here, we actually were able to make this happen, even though the other body decided not to go along with it. And we've now decided as the Senate to make sure the governor's initial recommendation with the treasurer's absolute concurrence that we have reinstalled this particular component. By the way, we learned very quickly that the best way to get to the chair of appropriations is to bring her a bouquet of flowers. We won't tell you where they came from, but Suffice to say, they were not classed. Through the efforts of our appropriations institutions, we have now reinstalled this component, and we are optimistic that the other body will concur. Essentially, it requires us to bond for less, or it enables us to bond for less money. It will also be looked at with favor by the bonding agencies who are giving us ratings every year. And back up to the top of the page where you see the first green, proceeds from property sale. We have two pieces of property on Baldwin Street that are the subject of conversations for sale. The first is 16 Baldwin Street, which involves this particular $300,000. The idea is that building is currently empty. We own it, it's gathering dust, and we are paying major maintenance on it. The decision has been made to sell it. The proceeds expected, at least in the way we have it worded here, are expected to bring approximately $300,000. So we are taking the anticipated proceeds from that sale, and we are going to apply them to the capital. You will also find at the almost bottom of the page where that $300,000 is listed under BGS statewide major maintenance contingent upon the sale of 13 Baldwin Street. I think I said 16 Baldwin Street, it's 13 Baldwin Street. There is one other component to the sale of property, and it appears on page 3306 of today's calendar. 9 Baldwin Street is another property that the state owns. 9 Baldwin Street is presently occupied by the state's IT department, the legislature's IT department. That IT department is in the process of moving to 133 State Street, which is a concrete building down here below what used to be the BGS offices. When that move is accomplished, your Senate committee has added language to the bill that you see here that would enable that property to be placed for sale. With respect to the remainder of the things that you see on this document, we have taken $25,000 from the statewide major maintenance. I should have explained this particular section is talking about Senate institutions' contribution to the appropriations contribution, approximately $10 million necessary for the cash fund that I was speaking earlier. We had to effectively find about $3.9 million in which the House had sent us suggested spending and remove it in order to have available bonding capacity to meet the $10 million that is necessary to fund this cash flow component. $25,000 from statewide major maintenance is part of that. We also removed approximately $500,000 from the Department of Corrections HVAC facility. That figure, as it came over from the other body, was $1 million. We've taken half of that because the Department of Corrections is not in a position of being shovel-ready to handle those HVAC systems at this time. It is not because we don't believe they need to be changed. In fact, the corrections facilities in the state, many of them during the height of summer, become literally a baking oven. And the people inside are very uncomfortable, both the folks who are housed there as inmates, as well as those who are employees. That is a conversation that must continue. Next year will have to be dealt with as projects become shovel-ready. State college infrastructure, I'm going to skip to and save the big one for last. We have an understanding that there are major infrastructure situations going on in state colleges, but here again, state colleges are not in a position to be shovel-ready to make those transformations. And as a result, we did not want to see this particular sum of money hang on the wall waiting for those things to happen. It is, again, a conversation that needs to continue in the future. But for right now, we've taken $100,000 from that plan. Which brings me to the nursing school. program, Simulation Laboratories. One of the great changes in our approach to the economy has been the suggestion that we need a lot of nurses and we can educate them, and we need facilities in order to make that happen. The other body came up with $4 million to be dedicated in this budget for that to happen. Fortunately, as we took testimony, it became immediately apparent that the facilities are not anywhere near shovel ready. So the question became, do we leave that money hanging on the wall while we wait for them to become shovel ready? Or do we take some money in order to develop the cash fund that I was talking about earlier? This was a last minute addition by the other body. The governor had not asked for it initially. But we believe this is a program worthy of getting some funding. So we left $1 million in order for that to happen. But they are literally in a situation where they cannot advance this without first going through the motions of planning, design, permitting, et cetera. And they have not even begun to approach that this year. So in order to demonstrate our commitment to this being a worthy cause, we left $1 million, which should fund approximately 2 classrooms if they get around to actually getting into the planning and designing stage. I want to pause to note words you heard earlier about the Lois McClure. Last year, we tried to sink a boat in Lake Champlain. This year, we are dealing with a boat being taken off Lake Champlain and cut up into pieces. The Lake Champlain Maritime Museum has made a decision through its Board of Trustees to take the Lois McClure off Lake Champlain. I believe it's in 2024. The purpose of that is to cut it up into sections and use it as a display on the land at the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. The committee was somewhat sad about that because the naval surveys of the boat itself indicated it is still seaworthy. It needs some cosmetic updates, but nonetheless, the museum has decided to take her off of the lake. We have simply added language seeking them to rethink that process. But we understand that they are probably going to do what they have planned now. I did want the body to be aware that the Lois McClure has been a wonderful demonstration of Vermont and its history throughout the northeast quadrant of the United States and lower Canada. And we are sad to see her actually being taken off the water. Our committee, Madam President, heard from 43 witnesses. One of the obstacles that we have as a committee is that we don't have the bill initially. We have to anticipate what the other body is doing all along the session. We did that by literally mirroring every one of their witnesses a day or two after they had spoken in the other body, and then had to invite many of them back in order to have conversation about what the other body had done to their particular budget and try to see what we could do about it. One of those is one of your committee's favorite entities. Now, keeping in mind that this budget is well over $100 million, the comical part of this is this discussion involves $50,000. And that is the walleye guys. We have a bunch of volunteers who have created a walleye fry birthing center, if you will, that is the model for the United States. These folks are very dedicated to what they do. They bring in a lot of money from tourism, people who love to fish and fish specifically for walleye. And for the past 2 years, they, like everybody else, has been subject to COVID-19. In their case, their 2 biggest fundraisers were missed over the past 2 years. They have a dinner every year, which is very popular. A lot of folks come, they donate a whole lot of money, but they have been deprived of that for the past 2 years. And while like volunteers are in desperate need at this point of 6 self-cleaning spawning tanks, we've decided to give them what they were looking for. We have traditionally funded them with $25,000. They were in need of an additional 25, and that's what you see here in the notation on this single page of green letter. With that, Madam President, your committee voted 5-0-0 for the changes that we have made, and we would ask for your support.
Senator from Essex Orleans, Senator Starr is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations. Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. We reviewed the budget proposal presented by the chair of the Institutions Committee, and we voted 601 to support what they presented and would urge the House to do well.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Institutions? Are you ready for the question? Senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Is this the appropriate time for to interrogate a reporter of the?
It is.
Thank you.
And you may.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe this is for the reporter from Essex Orleans who reported on human services. I had a little trouble following because the section numbers in here are different than the section numbers on this spreadsheet. But I'm just curious, Madam President, about the money allocated to correctional facilities. And as you are probably aware, the Wyndham County Sheriff has been working with DCF and corrections around a secure facility for youth. And I just wondered if there is any renovation money in here for that facility that has currently been approved by DCF, and if there's anything in here that would help the renovation, the remodeling of a couple of rooms to make into bedrooms for the youth.
Madam President, I will have to get back to the senator before third reading to answer that question.
Thank you.
Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Actually, Madam President, I checked with Ledge Counsel and BGS as the question is being asked. The answer is no, not at this time. No request has been made.
Senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I am somewhat surprised that no request has been made through either DCF or the Sheriff's Office, but I will check that out. It seems if we're encouraging that facility to be used for secure residential facility, short-term for youth, that we might think about putting some money into it, but thank you.
The senator from Chittenden is recognized, and then the senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could interrogate Senator from Caledonia about the single page.
You may.
Thank you. My question, Madam President, first is, I'm wondering if I've confused spending with retracting spending. So I see the 25,000 for the walleyes. Is the 100,000 for the Vermont State colleges, is that 100,000 pulled? In other words, not to be spent?
That is correct, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. Then my second question is, from testimony and appropriations, I had thought that 100,000 was for consulting, design work, et cetera. Is that correct, Madam President?
Madam President, may I take a brief recess to make sure I have the answer correct?
The Senate will stand in recess until the fall of the gavel. The Senate will please come to order. Returning from a brief recess, and the senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. The House had put in $1 million for this particular item. We took 100,000 out. Senator may recall that he and I and Chancellor Jeb Spalding took a walk across a couple of campuses trying to identify facilities that could come down. But this language is talking about classrooms being transformed and how to bring them into the 21st century, if you will. Again, being shovel ready, they are not in that situation. They have ideas. One of the messages that we were trying to send was our frustration that they have not gotten to a point where they literally sold buildings that they should have. This was kind of a polite way of sending the message. We have heard from you many times that you are in the process of downsizing. You have not gotten there yet. You have made efforts to decide what buildings may come down that are not being used. This particular provision is not dealing with those buildings. This is for their upgrades to other buildings.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm finding it a little confusing because it doesn't list under the House, it doesn't list any spending. Am I understanding the senator correctly that there will be 900,000 spent and the only difference is 100,000 being retracted by?
That is correct.
So there's 900,000 being spent on Vermont State College's infrastructure transformation.
That is correct, Madam President.
Thank you very much.
The senator from Rutland is recognized, and we'll move to the senator from Addison.
Thank you, Madam President. May I interrogate the reporter of the bill from Caledonia?
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. There's been speculation, rumors that we're looking at doing some major renovations and upgrades to this facility towards the rear of the building, introduce the cafeteria expansion, adding maybe another floor even to grow the facility here. Is that the case in this bill? And if so, how much money would that be allocating for a project of that magnitude?
This bill does not provide money for that purpose at this time, Madam President. What you may not know, Madam President, is through the summer and fall, there were committee meetings going on all that time about what, if anything, to do with respect to the space in the State House itself. Those meetings consisted of various players from all walks of the legislative process. And ideas were floated and architectural renderings were floated. And it's an ongoing conversation about what, if anything, should be done. But at least at this moment in time with this particular bill, there's no construction money set aside for those ideas. I will say in passing that the ideas about what to do ranged from nothing at all to expansion on the east side and on the west side, adding a floor to the cafeteria, and virtually everything in between. It is an ongoing conversation because COVID taught us a lot about the space limitations here. Part of our reaction to all of that was to, at the same time, install these fancy electronic equipment in every single room in the building in order to try to adjust the number of people who are actually coming. We're still in the process of learning how all of this impacts the conversation going on about what kind of additional space do we need. But to answer the question directly, Madam President, this bill does not contain any construction money for that effort at this time.
I thank the reporter and thank you, Madam President.
Leave the senator from Addison was standing, and I'll move to the senator from Windsor after.
Thank you, Madam President. Two senators touched on the sections I'm interested in, but I guess I will go with the senator from Caledonia if he would be interrogated.
You may inquire of the senator from Caledonia.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm looking at the spreadsheet and I have similar confusions to the senator from Chittenden. The numbers seem a little backwards. I think these are meant to be negative numbers that are highlighted in the dark green color, and they appear to be positive numbers. So that is confusing, and also that the House column is blank. So I'm wondering if it's possible before third reading to have this table redone to be a little less confusing, because the numbers don't match with the numbers in the big, massive spreadsheet. But what I'm specifically interested in is the nursing school program simulation laboratories, which I believe has $1 million left in it. The House had $4 million in it, and the Senate Institutions Committee recommended reducing it by $3 million to leave $1 million. Is that correct, Madam President?
That is correct, Madam President.
Okay, so where are these nursing school program simulation laboratories? Are they at UVM, the state colleges, a private college, CTE centers? There are many places they could be, so where are they?
Madam President, the answer is all of the above. And unfortunately, nobody has come to fruition in getting the spearhead at the top saying, we're going to start with X, and then move to Y, and then to Z, which is one of the reasons we did not want to leave $3 million sitting on the wall gathering dust. We are encouraging the program, but we heard from the Nurses Association, the state colleges, UVM, and I forget, Madam President, there was another witness testifying there, but we are cognizant of the need for this program to be developed, but they haven't reached that stage where I can point in answer to the question, Madam President, and say, Castleton, for instance, is going to be the first classroom that will be built.
Okay, so the money is appropriated, but it's not allocated to a specific institution in this bill.
That is correct.
Okay.
It would also be fair to alert you to a potential conflict coming up, because the other body had actually designated the Agency of Human Services as the body that would be doling out the grants to make this happen. We simply concurred with the House, anticipating that they had taken the testimony necessary to actually accomplish that. And I have found actually last night, at a very late hour, that they had not. So there may be an issue whether AHS wants to take on that responsibility. And if that becomes a problem, we're going to deal with the other body and trying to be able to concur at the end of the day if they need to bring an amendment.
Okay, that's helpful information. I'm wondering, is there any language in the bill about a report back or any kind of check-in about this program? It's as a member of the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, we took a lot of testimony on the nursing needs, so it's something that we know is super important, but I'm concerned that it seems a little up in the air and wonder if there's some kind of interim language in the bill.
I concur with your concern, Madam President, which is why we did not want to leave $3 million hanging on the wall waiting for this question to be answered. I do believe everybody is in concurrence of the need for the program, but it really hasn't gelled to a point where we understand the mechanics of how it's actually going to happen.
Okay, I might suggest adding some language just to clarify that maybe for third reading. So my next question, thank you. My next question actually also is for the senator from Caledonia. And I have the benefit of sitting next to the senator from Franklin, so he may have answered this question for me. But the cash fund that you refer to is also a little confusing on this spreadsheet. It looks like there is there's a line for a capital expense cash fund under the governors of $6.525 million. But then it's zeroed out in the House and the Senate version. The senator from Franklin said to me that the remaining bonding capacity at the bottom, the 3.9 million, is supposed to be the cash fund. Could you just clarify where the cash fund shows up in here?
I can understand and appreciate the frustration, Madam President. There are two parts in answering this question. First, cash. We are not taking cash from this budget. We are actually giving us the opportunity to bond for what we need to. and coming up with 3.9 million on our side of things. Another way of saying it is, when it came over from the other body had spent all of the money that we would normally have bonded for. We have in fact retracted 3.9 million of those expenditures in order to provide the bonding room necessary to develop this cash fund. $6 million comes directly from the big bill. I guess I would have to leave it to the Chair of Appropriations to explain where that money came from, but that has been reserved. The two come up with 10 million, which is what is supposed to be the originating seed, if you will, for this to happen.
Okay, so if I understand it, the 6 million is in the big bill reserved for cash or for the cash fund, and another 4 million is bonding authority that you've added to the 6 million to get 10 million.
We had the bonding authority. We have just removed 3.9 million of what was targeted by the other body. Said we're not going to bond yet for that. We have the bonding capacity to get there, but we're not designating money to be spent under that bonding authority. We're saving that 3.9.
Okay, so it's not actually cash, it's bonding capacity. Okay,
that's correct.
That makes sense. All right, thank you. I thank the senator. And Madam President, I just wanted to say one more thing about an item in the capital budget. We heard from both the senator from Caledonia and the senator from Essex Orleans about the Lois McClure at the Maritime Museum. And I have spoken to and worked with the Maritime Museum and talked to them about the issue with the with the Lois McClure. They did explore all the options possible to maintain that vessel on the water, and it is not financially or physically possible to do so at this time. So that they have explored all the options. They have done their due diligence. They are a private entity, a private nonprofit organization, and the Lois McClure is not a state-funded program. So I think it's inappropriate for us to tell them what to do and to assume that they haven't done their due diligence with this historical artifact. I know that people are sad to see it close and see it change. Change is hard, and when things that we love close or go away, that makes it really hard. But I just want to say that the board of directors and the staff at the Maritime Museum have really worked hard to come up with a solution for that historic artifact that maintains its ability to be seen by the public and maintains its ability to be accessible, but also does it in a fiscally and historically responsible way. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator from Windsor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to interrogate the reporter of the bill, the senator from Caledonia, to follow up on two questions that have already been asked of him.
You may inquire.
It's always a pleasure to be at this point, and sadly it takes us going through the presentation of the capital bill, often for those of us who haven't been entirely focused on it, to begin to focus on it. I'd like to add to the questions along the lines of the State House, because the senator, Madam President, the senator and I and several others in this room have been working on the State House renovation. I believe some money has already been allocated this year to do the feasibility work to look at whether the third floor could in fact be constructed. Is that not correct, Senator?
The answer to that question, Madam President, is yes, but not in your Senate changes to what the House sent over in reaction to the governor's budget adjustment. There is an ongoing conversation about cafeteria. It was originally designed to have a floor put on top. A decision was made when the cafeteria was built that they didn't want to do that at that time, but at least at that time, it was architecturally and permittably enabled to happen. What we don't know now is whether or not architecturally it is still in a position of supporting, or by way of permits, will it still meet the permits? been quite a few years since that original designation was made. That conversation is ongoing. I will have to also inject, however, that your institutions committee took a tour of all of the empty space in the Capitol complex. There are spaces in the Capitol complex which were not exactly toured by the same committee, Madam President, that you and I worked on during the summer and fall. So I suspect, I won't be chair of institutions next year, but there may very well be conversations about whether we want to add a floor or use some of the current empty space in the Capitol complex to accommodate something like a new cafeteria.
Thank you. But Madam President, in full disclosure in terms of money being spent on the, in anticipation of a renovation, that feasibility money is being spent in this bill, I believe, to do that feasibility work.
Actually,
or was it in the budget adjustment?
It was actually, Madam President, in the original first biennium capital bill.
Thank you. Okay, so just to allay the senator from Rutland's concerns, there is money being spent to hopefully open up options for us as we explore renovations in the future. Second question is a perennial question of mine, Madam President. As a former House member and as a person who's very dedicated to Farmers Night and to having all things heard in both chambers, I'm just curious where we are with the sound system in the House.
The sound system in the House, Madam President, is not covered by this budget adjustment and the House and Senate's reactions to the governor's recommendation.
And may I ask, Madam President, what is the plan to address this need, which has been hanging out there for now at least 4 years?
The last report that I had, Madam President, was that IT could not correct the current sound system because the system is so antiquated. That they were looking into alternatives. That conversation was being discussed last year. And Madam President, at this time, I do not know what the update of that conversation is.
Thank you, Madam President. I think we'll have to do some further sleuthing.
Senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Well, thank you, Madam President. May I inquire of the senator from Essex Orleans on section 3, please?
You may.
Thank you. Just as an update, I understand that these are ongoing projects, but if you could clarify for us, I'm on page 3297 and then on section 3 of the spreadsheet, the Women's Correctional Facility and how that is being planned. I know that in Joint Justice Oversight, we looked at a campus that is in Maine and whether the money that's here is for the purchase of land or both the purchase of land and then design concepts.
Again, Madam President, I apologize. I will get back to the senator before third reading, unless the chair of our committee in consultation with.
Sorry. I believe that we are not to be speaking with people who are not on the floor during our in session, and would, if we need to, would ask for a recess.
The point of order is well taken, and senators are reminded to not engage with the public while on the floor.
Before third reading, or if they'd like to take a recess, we could get the question answered, I'm sure.
The Senate will stand in a brief recess until they call the gavel. The Senate will please come to order. Returning from the brief recess, and the Senator from Essex Orleans had the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The $1 million is, all it is for right now is there's been no decisions made. They're looking for 2 facilities, a corrections facilities and a reentry facilities. There's been no the decisions made about where it's going to be or no plans as far as to design it or anything. They're just looking to figure out where they could buy land, where they could put these facilities. It's been money that's been in there since last year. It's not a new appropriations for this year. They just haven't got, Madam President, to further it along and made any decisions about where these facilities are going to be.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I will continue with my questions and hope that we don't have to pause again. But so on the secure residential recovery facility, which we could consider as a safe therapeutic environment, is this for the adults or for children?
This is for the adults.
This is for the adults, okay. And this is not with regard to, or is it, the facility that is being developed in Essex, the town of Essex Junction, now, city of Essex Junction?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful. Then moving down to the nursing school programs that have been discussed earlier. So the question is about the grants and the allocation of the funds. Is there, to your knowledge, is the Agency of Human Services putting together an RFP for the granting of these funds?
We met with our House counterparts, Madam President, yesterday, and there was some confusion about from them to us, and they had asked us and then come to find out it was the House who had put that in there, and I think that there is confusion on that part as far as whether they even want to administer that part of the program. We were very adamant because we believe in this program in a big way, that something to resurrect state colleges and give them a path forward. We really wanted to support the $4 million. We want to support the program, but because of the nature of where they were, we said, well, we don't want to, as the chair of institutions had said earlier, we didn't want to just hang $4 million out there on the hopes that we could move forward. We wanted to entice them to move forward with this $1 million. They thought that they could get 2 programs started, but there's still a little bit more work, as the senator from Addison had pointed out, and hopefully by third reading we can bring some clarity to where that will be.
So thank you, Madam President, and thank you. And so my suggestion will be, because we worked a little bit on this type of concern and issue and bringing folks together when we looked at a bill early in the session on children's mental health. Currently in the Agency of Human Services, the Director of Healthcare Reform has done a very comprehensive analysis of workforce needs and is familiar with some of the issues that exist. And then we also have our nursing programs across the state. My suggestion would be, I don't know that you can do this, Madam President, before closure on this bill, but it might make sense to bring some of those folks together in language and to have them develop an RFP that is acceptable to the nursing program. So sometimes it's a matter of the nursing school saying, you know, what is it that we can do, and trying to go through a whole planning process. But if there's an upfront discussion, they might be able to work collaboratively with AHS. So I'm going to put my head together with the senator from Addison and with others, and maybe we can offer some language before third reading. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to make clear the answer that there has been no RFP issued, and that after we learned that the other body did not take testimony to cover this discussion, I did hear from the other body's chair that they were talking with their respective committees of jurisdiction to dive into this. In order to speed up the process, Madam President, given that we were on the verge of discussing this in second reading, I would heartily encourage the senator from Addison and the senator from Chittenden to have a conversation with the chair of House institutions. I believe they are going to try to put together some language which we will then have to concur with if it's sent back. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Institutions? The senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry to prolong the interrogation, but I wondered if I could inquire of the presenter of Section 17 or of the chair of the committee.
Okay.
Looking at Section 17 on 3306, this is establishing an intent about reducing carbon intensity in state buildings. I wonder if the committee took testimony on this section, and if the reporter could let us know what they thought the impact of such an intent language might be.
Of course, I serve on natural resources and energy as well, so I'm trying to clear my mind of which witness I heard from and which committee. Perhaps I should defer to the chair.
Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I did hear from Joe Asia from BGS regarding this particular concept. There are a couple of problems going forward. First, the kind of equipment that would be necessary to handle some of our spaces is almost no such equipment that would handle them at this present time. That does not mean they are not trying. They are moving towards trying to get off of fossil fuels as sources for heating capacity in virtually every building they are designing. There are occasions, however, when they run into a problem where equipment does not exist, or there is equipment that exists, but it is so far down the pipeline, you may not be able to wait long enough to get that done. Lastly, they have to have the labor that comes along with that, and the labor shortage in this state is causing a lot of problems. I understand and appreciate the need to move forward and divest ourselves of fossil fuels. They have promised us that they are trying to do that as best they can under the circumstances.
Madam President, I'm wondering what the impact of just this intent language is, given that the committee heard from BGS that this is their intent, why we felt like we needed to add some intent of the General Assembly.
Simply put, Madam President, so that the conversation continues. We could not tell them they had to if they can't. And the upshot is we want that to be an ongoing conversation.
Madam President, with this language, I see in the subsection B, talking about the State Energy Management Program, referring to the intent of the General Assembly that the Agency of Transportation and Forest Parks and Recreation will make use of those services. But I wondered if those agencies, departments would be included in subsection A about the intent about greenhouse gas or carbon intensity in buildings, if that would include the buildings operated and owned by Agency of Transportation and Forest Parks and Recreation.
I guess the only way that I can answer that, Madam President, is the legislature is going to signal its intent, which it has. BGS is ultimately responsible for all the entities that appear in subsection B. So we anticipate that that intent message has been delivered all the way down the line.
Thank you, Senator. I feel like that for this section, we can do a lot better. and I'm going to be proposing amendment for third reading, because I think even though, given what the senator said about it's not practical in all buildings, I think just intent language doesn't go far enough, that there are opportunities to provide for our state buildings using local Vermont fuel sources. And we should be more clear that that is the imperative, except for when it's just not feasible. I totally understand that there are times where it just can't be done. So that'll be an amendment that the senators will see in third reading. Thank you, Madam President.
Question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Institutions? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Institutions. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered the third reading of H 739. I do believe now we'll go back to the top of our calendar, and H 717, an act relating to the Vermont National Guard tuition. Senator from, sorry, H 517. There's something about this bill. I'll give everyone a moment to get there. H 517, an act relating to the Vermont National Guard tuition benefit program, which was read for the first time on March 15th. It was referred to the Committee on Education. The bill be amended as set forth on 3285 of today's calendar, that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Reports it has considered the bill and recommends that when so amended as recommended by the Committee on Education, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 517.
H 517, an act relating to the Vermont National Guard tuition benefit program.
The senator from Chittenden, Senator Chittenden, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Education.
Thank you, Madam President. May I speak to both the underlying bill and the amendment?
May.
So as many of you know, that starting in January 1st, 2019, the Vermont National Guard Tuition Benefit Program began to provide full tuition to eligible Vermont National Guard members at the University of Vermont, the Community College of Vermont, Northern Vermont University, and up to and also to other other schools beyond those, as well as to like certificate and non-degree programs both in and outside of Vermont. This bill came to us as a clarification and expansion of those benefits for all of our collective memory. If you remember the program, how it works is for each academic year of attendance under the program, a Guard member has to serve 2 years in the Guard to receive the full tuition benefit. In the report that was issued to us this year, it turned out that the $1 million allocated for July 1, 2020 through 2021, only about $529,274 was used. That inspired some additional amendments to clarify the program and to allow more flexibility for its use. So that came to your Senate Education Committee, and we had some other germane bills, and we decided to add some ornaments to this bill. And so now you'll see the last section actually revises the name to reflect the additional 3 sections I'll be speaking to in this bill. So section 1 and 2 is really what came to us from the House, and it has to do with that National Guard tuition benefit. It clarifies that the benefits can be used to obtain multiple certificates in the program. For courses, it also adjusts slightly the eligible reimbursement rates. So for courses at any Vermont State College institution or the University of Vermont, the tuition benefit would be the in-state residence tuition rate for those respective institutions. For courses at any eligible Vermont private post-secondary institution, example, Middlebury of sorts, the tuition benefit would be the in-state residence tuition rate for UVM. So it just adjusts that slightly based on testimony from witnesses. For courses at eligible training institutions offering non-degree certificate training or continuing education programs, the tuition benefit would be the lower of the institution's standard tuition or in-state tuition charged by UVM. It also further clarifies that the benefit can be used to obtain multiple certificates. New in this subdivision 2, it provides that an individual can receive more than one undergraduate certificate or other credential recognized by VSAC under the program, provided that the cost of all certificates and credentials received by the individual under the program does not exceed the full-time in-state tuition rate charged by UVM for completion of an undergraduate baccalaureate degree. The Section 2 creates a 3-year pilot program to allow these tuition benefits under Vermont National Guard, under the Vermont National Guard tuition benefit program to be used for a second baccalaureate degree or for a master's degree, a 3-year pilot program. There are conditions on the eligibility for that second degree on the master's program. A National Guard member would be eligible to pursue a second undergraduate degree under the program if and only if the individual received the first undergraduate baccalaureate degree that was not funded under this program or any other state funding source designed exclusively for members of the Vermont National Guard. Master's degrees, a National Guard member would be eligible to pursue a graduate degree under the program if the individual agrees to, upon receiving a graduate degree, and until the individual's National Guard service commitment is satisfied, be employed full-time in Vermont, or if unemployed, be actively seeking full-time employment in Vermont. An individual would be able to pursue a graduate degree under the program even if the individual has received an undergraduate baccalaureate degree under the program as it is. It also permit the Office of the Vermont Adjutant and the Inspector General to terminate the tuition benefit if the individual fails to satisfy the work requirement. Section 3 is a sunset, and I understand sunsets can often be extended, and that's not necessarily uncommon in this body. So as of right now, this pilot program is set to expire in July 1st, 2025. The next 3 sections were not in the original bill that came over from the House, but they were in other bills, and I want to recognize the leadership by a colleague, Senator Ron Hinsdale, who introduced S-104 and 105, where this language is directly inspired from. So the Section 4 is speaking to Section 4, 5, and 6 have to do with the education of military families. It really makes Vermont a little more family relocation friendly. So it amends, Section 4 amends the definition of legal people to add a new subsection that allows remote school registration of students if one or both of the students' parents or guardians are being relocated to Vermont under military orders. Senator Parent was a great leader in this cause as well. I feel like I need to list every name, and I'm told I shouldn't do that anyway because we are a little too profuse in our thanks. So I apologize for not mentioning you, Senator Parent, as well. On Section 5, determination of residency for tuition purposes at VSC, this adds a new subsection that provides in-state tuition benefits for the spouse or dependent child of any person who is a member of the U.S. Armed Forces and stationed in this state pursuant to military orders. We did add some language that the spouse or dependent child shall not lose classification as an in-state student if the spouse or dependent child continues to reside in the state and the member of the U.S. Armed Forces is transferred elsewhere on military order or retires. As long as the spouse or dependent child still resides here, they are eligible to that in-state tuition rate. The spouse or dependent child shall lose the classification as an in-state student under this subsection if the spouse or dependent child no longer resides in the state and shall regain that classification upon taking up a residency in the state only if the member of the U.S. Armed Forces is stationed in this state pursuant to military orders. Just some additional parameters. Section 6 is the exact same language but applicable to the University of Vermont as Section 5. The next of the 4 sections of this bill has to do with a Purple Star campus designation, really just enabling language. It doesn't mandate or require any action on the state, but what it does is it puts in statute the parameters for a school district or a university, I believe, to be recognized as a Purple Star campus. So it just requires the Agency of Education to designate just a school district. This is not necessarily a campus. To designate a school district as a Purple Star campus if the school district applies and qualifies for the designation under this section. So we are not crafting this from scratch. Other states have adopted the same Purple Star designation, so there is precedent out there. We're not standing up a program without some additional guidance that is applicable in other states. The subsection would impose a number of requirements to qualify as a Purple Star campus set out in the subdivisions 1 through 5. It would be that a school district would be required to designate a staff member as a military liaison with specific duties, maintain within the school district an internet website with an easily accessible webpage that includes resources for military connected students and their families, including specific information. It also requires that they maintain a transition program led by students where appropriate that assists military connected students in transitioning into the school district. It also requires that they offer the school district offer professional development for staff members on issues related to military connected students, should they apply for this designation. It additionally requires one of the following 3. So the previous ones were all required. In this case, just one of these has to be met. A resolution showing support for military connected students and their families from that school district. Recognition by the school district of the month of the military child or military family month, relevant events hosted by the school district, or a partnership with a local military installation that provides opportunities for active duty military members to volunteer with the school district, speak at an assembly, or host a field trip. This would allow the school district to partner with a third party to provide services and initiatives under subdivision of this section. The third of the 4 general areas of this bill has to do with the eligibility, this is the fourth of the 3 of the 4, it has to do with the eligibility to serve as adjutant and inspector general. Many of you know, as being not in your first term in this body, know that we in Vermont elect our adjutant general. I understand from reports with the chair of the military caucus here in the great state of Vermont that it used to be South Carolina and Vermont, the only 2 remaining states to do it. South Carolina has recently switched to appoint their adjutant general. So we are now the only state, according to my sources, that still elect our adjutant general. But I always like to say we're from Vermont, we do what we want. So we're going to continue and keep that. That was considered some time ago to change that to an appointment of the adjutant general. There is reasons to keep it as an elected body by this group. And so what this language is proposing to do is to just add some parameters, some eligibility requirements to be the adjutant general. This is important because as much as the current language allows for the adjutant general to be any one of us, in committee, Senator Terenzini expressed some interest in being the adjutant general, and so he was relieved to see that these qualifications would actually prohibit him from serving in such an important body. I too expressed interest, and we made sure that the language would also preclude me from doing so. So this language comes to us from advice on what it takes for our adjutant general to be able to sit at the table with their federal counterparts on these important decisions. So these parameters just make sure that anybody eligible for this office would be able to serve in this office without being restricted from classified information as they work with our federal delegation and federal military resources. So to that point, Section 8 also recognizes another aspect of the election of the Adjutant General. You may know him as Greg Knight, the current serving Adjutant General. I remember when I first met Greg, he was coming to an event that I was hosting for the South Burlington Fire Department, and he was looking to meet with legislators because he had to secure votes. And I remember in that conversation, he said, I'm a military professional. I don't know how to campaign. And I told him, neither do I. So I gave him some advice, and I said, try speaking with the individuals, finding time to talk with them. And so so this language, what this allows for him to do is when he was running for that first office, the election happens about a month into the first year of the biennium. And so he wasn't able to necessarily talk to, as he was learning how to campaign and speak with people, he wasn't able to know who was going to get elected on the first Tuesday in November. So it was less time for a military professional to reach out and to communicate to very important individuals, elected officials, about why he was seeking the office of Adjutant General. This first Section 8 proposes to move the date of the election for the Adjutant General to not be the first couple of months of the biennium, but instead to be the first couple of months of the second year of the biennium. So by that time, the Adjutant General would have a full year to actually know who will be electing that person, who they should reach out to. So it just gives them more time, so especially for newly elected individuals, to enable military professionals to campaign around the State House over a full year of the session. So, Section 9 are the eligibility requirements regarding this position, and it requires that any candidate to serve as Adjutant or Inspector General of the Vermont National Guard must have attained the rank of Colonel 06 or above. This will ensure that the individual can receive federal promotion of Brigadier General during the initial term of the Adjutant General. They must be a current member of the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Army Reserve, the U.S. Air Force Reserve, the Army National Guard, or the Air National Guard to be eligible to return to active service in the Army National Guard or Air National Guard. It also requires them to be a graduate of the Senior Service College, Senior Service College. Senior Service Colleges include schools such as Army War College, the Air War College, the Joint Advanced Warfighting School, and the NATO Defense College, among others. It also requires that they be eligible for federal recognition. This means that the individual must meet specific federal standards necessary for nomination and approval for promotion to the federal rank of Brigadier General or higher. Section 10 just clarifies that the current term of the Adjutant and Inspector General extends the current term through until February 2024 to correspond with the new election dates. Now, some of you might be thinking this seems to be appropriate for our Senate Government Operations Committee. I understand the communications with the Chair and Senate Education found this germane to this bill, and we took this up with the consent of the Chair. Section 11 has to do with the effective date. We heard from 16 witnesses, and I've learned from the last time I spoke before you all, I'm not going to list them all. The vote in committee, but if you'd like to know who we spoke to, I'd be glad to elaborate on any of that. The vote in committee was 6-0-0, and we asked the to concur.
The Senator from Essex, Orleans, Senator Starr is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We did have the witness in before Appropriations, Senator Chittenden, and he didn't quite go on as long as he did a good job explaining the money sections of the bill, which we in Appropriation are most concerned with. And what we found was that there was plenty of money left in the Adjutant General's education budget to allow for the expansion of the educational program. And so it has no effect, these major changes have no effect on our budget, but will help the Guards people that want to go on, change degree programs. It will help them a great deal. So our vote in committee was 6-0-1 and would suggest that the body approve the bill as proposed.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? Are you ready for the question?
Roll call.
The senator from Rutland has requested a roll call vote. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess since there was no appropriations amendment, this is the time to address the bill itself. Is that true? Or?
I believe, just let me confirm, yes. I had an education amendment, but maybe that's my error, in which case we would just move to third reading. Let me confer with the secretary briefly.
It's totally appropriate to debate.
Pardon?
If she wants to debate and interrogate.
Are you asking to interrogate, or you're asking, sorry.
What I'm wondering about is we've been asked to have a roll call, and there was no amendment from the Appropriations Committee. So we are now taking a roll call on the bill itself as presented by the Education Committee.
That is correct.
So this is the appropriate time to address the bill itself?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to acknowledge that Section 8, 9, and 10, as pointed out by the Senator from Chittenden when he reported it, do not seem germane to an education bill. However, we, as many of you know, over the past number of years, I have introduced, and it has passed this body, this chamber, at least 3 times, recommending that we not elect the Adjutant General, but that we appoint the Adjutant General. The other chamber has consistently not taken that up and has disagreed with it But it is really important that we have the minimum qualifications. And if we're going to elect the adjutant general, at least it should be done the second year. So we desperately looked for a place to put these minimum qualifications, and the Education Committee kindly allowed this to be added to their bill. So I would hope we support that. It is very important that we have minimum qualifications, because as the senator from Chittenden pointed out, both the senator from Rutland and the senator from Chittenden might want to run for adjutant general, or might I, and that would be a real mistake. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? The senator from Windsor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I interrogate the reporter of the bill, please?
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to go to section 7. We're a state without a military base, and I'm just curious where the proposal for this idea arose.
So as much as we don't have an active military base, we do have military professionals that do sometimes serve here for a variety of different capacities, be it the old Fort Ethan Allen, or who knows what would hold in the future. Madam President.
And where did this proposal, what's the origin of this proposal?
I can definitely speak to some of the witnesses. If I recall correctly, we worked closely with Christopher Arnold, the Northeast Regional Liaison from the Defense State Liaison Office, the Defense Department. He is responsible for military, community, and family policies.
Thank you. That's not really my question. Was this a bill that had been introduced, or, okay, I guess it wasn't. So, second question is, this, in my mind, puts additional burdens on our school system. I don't think we don't give preferential treatment to any other career path by embedding somebody in, other than, of course, all our teachers who are models for a teaching career. I'm very concerned with, with this section. I'm just not sure what the need is for it, what the drive is for it. And I'm concerned about the additional burden on schools. And so I would love to get an understanding of what the response from the education community was about this.
Madam President, I might offer that this is only enabling language. It does not require school districts to do anything. This is only putting in statute that should somebody, for example, have a military professional relocate to Vermont, or have a need to make it easier for them to do so, or want to pursue this, they would allow to be able to get this federally recognized Purple Star campus designation. But no school district is obligated to take any of these steps.
My question, Madam President, is did the Agency of Education testify?
We did hear from many. As for Daniel French, Secretary of Agency of Education, at some point I recall him speaking. Before third reading, I'd be happy to confirm that Daniel French did in fact testify on this. I recall him doing so, but I would want to get 100% certainty before third.
Thank you. I'd appreciate understanding further how education views this potential opportunity or burden. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to add that we did hear from the NEA, the Principals Association, the School Boards Association, all of whom came to support this part of the bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? The senator from Rutland has requested a roll call vote, and the senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I was simply going to rise in support of this amendment and the underlying bill, given that this amendment does now include provisions that I had introduced as the lead sponsor, along with my colleague from Chittenden, as well as the senator from Franklin. I wanted to just start by addressing overall why I think these sections are important, and then perhaps can address the senator from Windsor's concerns and comments. First, I think what we all are aware of is that generationally, less and less Americans, fewer and fewer Americans have someone serving in the military or in the Guard in their family. I feel fortunate to still have my 95-year-old grandfather in my life who is a Purple Heart recipient who served in World War II. But fewer and fewer Americans do have the experience of having a loved one serve in the military who's a direct part of their nuclear family. And so when the Department of Defense reached out and said, you know, we are essentially only as strong as our states that have the least support for our military families and our returning service members, it was a privilege for me to be able to introduce legislation that helps us join other states that support our military families. Directly to the concern about not creating positions that support other particular occupational groups, I do want to say that in many circles around diversity, equity, and inclusion work, it is recognized that veterans, service members, and their families do have a unique experience. This shows up in unfortunate statistics around isolation, thoughts and feelings of suicide, feeling separated from the rest of society because a lived experience that's shared only by a small group of people. This does put them in a particular class of minority status that is often recognized by institutions of higher education and diversity equity professionals as well. Veteran status is something important to take into consideration when we think about ensuring families, and particularly our young people, have everything that they need to feel supported. So, you know, we do recognize Heritage Month, and, you know, this particular section, Section 7, simply adds to language that makes sure that they don't feel like they're being penalized or falling behind around having, moving around a lot related to military service, and instead gives us the opportunity voluntarily in our school districts to celebrate military families and the sacrifices that they are making, the ways that they move around, serve abroad, lose family members for periods at a time, or lose family members altogether, frankly, in the line of service. So I do want to thank the Committee on Education for including these provisions, and I thank the body for supporting this amendment.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I inquire of the reporter of the amendment? Thank you, Madam President. I was going to speak, and then I decided not to speak after the senator from Wyndham talked. I know that I have concerns with this, the Adjutant General being elected by the legislature. I'm sure I voted in opposition for that to continue. The senator from Chittenden mentioned that Senate Committee on Education took testimony and decided that there was good reason for it to continue as an election. And I wonder how much debate there was in committee on that underlying issue.
Madam President, I wouldn't necessarily qualify it as debate, but we did hear from Representative Liz Hango, who reflected, as well as Ken Gregg and Gregory Knight, the Adjutant General. And my understanding is, before my time, that previous efforts to convert this to an appointment were unsuccessful. They were unsuccessful with, I believe, the senator from Wyndham spoke to, which was in fact that that there were members of one chamber of this body that was in opposition to converting this towards an appointment process. It seemed to be reasonable then instead to go towards what was an agreement, which is that there should be some standards so that not just anybody without the qualifications to be able to serve in this function and to access the federal resources regarding our military supports, that they would have to have some standards for it.
So would it be correct to phrase the deliberations in the Education Committee to be a decision based on politics rather than a review of the merits of the underlying decision?
Madam President, I don't know if I'd go that far. I'd say that we focused on what was presented to us as a reasonable path forward, and we didn't necessarily consider the politics as opposed to the principle of the appointment versus election, but instead saw it as a reasonable path to just recognize there are some standards that should be met before they serve in this capacity.
I appreciate the standards, Madam President. I'm just wondering whether there was discussion in committee and an affirmative decision that it is a good idea to continue with the election process on its merits.
Madam President, my recollection is that there was not a direct discussion on that point, but instead on the language before us, which seemed to have support of the committee.
Thank you, Madam President.
Senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe I introduced a bill this year that would have done the same thing as I have done in a number of years. And it seemed futile to do it because the other chamber was not going to address it. And I don't think the Education Committee had the responsibility, if I may address this, I don't think the Education Committee had the responsibility to address whether the Adjutant General should be elected or appointed because they are the Education Committee, and military issues are within the jurisdiction of government operations. But we felt very strongly that we needed to have those minimum requirements because in addition to keeping people like myself from running for Adjutant General, who might have understand campaigning a little bit more than a military professional. In addition to that, it means that if we don't have those standards, if there's ever a time when there needs to be, and I don't know how to put this exactly, but an at-the-table discussion of adjutant generals from around the country, ours would not be allowed to sit at that table and join the discussion if we did not have those, if that person did not meet those minimum requirements. So it's really, really important. The issue of whether to elect or appoint can come up in another forum at another time, but this was really important to get done. Thank you.
Senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I've served on government operations when we looked at this issue in depth. And I don't share the fear that the chair of government operations, Senator from Wyndham, expresses simply because I have some faith in the General Assembly. We've never elected a pedestrian to lead the Vermont National Guard. We have some understanding of the role. Nevertheless, I have supported language like this in the past because it's fairly straightforward and we ought to have qualified candidates. I rise now because this process that we're engaged in is a good one. There is give and take. And that involves two chambers coming together and wrangling through areas of disagreement and coming to a compromise, and then also working with the administration, hopefully landing at a compromise there. My concern today is that we are potentially circumventing what clearly, for reasons I couldn't begin to articulate, are concerns in the other body. In the Committee of Jurisdiction, which for years has rejected the proposal from this Senate. And my concern is that by attaching this language to a bill, which nobody can argue is germane, we are circumventing that ability for this process to work out as it does. Now, I'm as keen on political tricks as anybody. They have their place. But I do think, Madam President, we should be careful because at this time of year, there's 30 of us and there's 150 of them. And they greatly outnumber us, and we open the gates to this kind of practice. I believe the Senate would find itself quickly at a disadvantage. Thank you.
Yes.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bills recommended by the Committee on Education? And the senator from Rutland has requested a roll call vote. Are you ready for the question? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruch.
Yes.
Senator Benning. Senator Bray.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Yes.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collmore.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Hooker.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator McDonald.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Senator McCormack.
Yes.
Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Parent.
Yes.
Senator Pearson.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick.
Yes.
Senator Polina.
Yes.
Senator Rom Hinsdale.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Sorotkin. Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator White.
Yes.
Senator Benning.
Yes.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas 30, the nays 0, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 517. We will now move to the top of the calendar, H 411. I do believe this will be the last bill for today. We have on the calendar for third reading H 411, an act relating to the retrieval and use of covered wild animals. Yesterday, there was a motion to postpone consideration to today, as well as postpone consideration of the amendment. Are there any amendments before third reading? And I believe the senator from Franklin has an amendment to offer. The senator is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. My streak of not getting a single vote out of the Senate Natural Resources on amendments stands, and therefore I will ask for leave from the Senate on my amendment.
The senator from Franklin has withdrawn his amendment, and the senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator from Franklin bringing forward the questions he did. The committee did meet and take testimony and opposes the amendments. I know they're being withdrawn, but I'm going to speak to just one element of it because I think all of us have received a surprisingly large number of emails around the subject of crows, which the bill as voted out House and our committee included crows amongst the animals that one cannot simply shoot for fun and leave them. That stands in the bill. We never proposed changing it. I've also, in the last 24 hours, checked with the Commissioner of the Fish and Wildlife Department, as well as the Director of the Vermont Federation of Sports, and both supported the bill as it came out of the committee originally. That is without the amendment, and I appreciate everyone's interest and would urge all to pass the bill without the amendment. It's been withdrawn. Thank you.
Are there any amendments, additional amendments before third reading? Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. There was some confusion about who was actually offering this amendment. And I understand it appears in today's calendar at the bottom of 3249 is being offered by Senator from Addison County. And in fact, it has been redrafted to his name with mine. The bottom line is this. present time, the bill reads that someone shall not knowingly, intentionally, or recklessly commit an act defined further in the bill. The concern is about the word recklessly, and I gave the example the other day of what happens if someone is driving in excess of the speed limit, strikes a covered animal, and what is their responsibility thereafter. My interpretation is that this bill would require them to make an effort to follow and track the animal in order to take care of it. I don't think that was the original intent of this bill. My belief in reading it is that we do not want people to knowingly and intentionally covered animal in these circumstances. Incorporate people in the scenario that I just gave. So this amendment simply would strike the word recklessly from that list of intent.
The question is, shall the Senate proposal of amendment be further amended as moved by the senator from Caledonia? Addison is recognized.
President, the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee reviewed the proposal amendment from the Senator from Caledonia and supports it.
Question is, shall the Senate proposal of amendment be further amended as moved by the senator from Caledonia? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the Senate proposal of amendment as moved by the senator from Caledonia. Are there any additional amendments before the reading? Please look at the third reading of H 411.
H 411, an act relating to the removal and use of covered wild animals.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Concurrence as amended. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed H 411 in concurrence with proposals of amendment. I do believe we are looking now to adjourn. Senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I ask for the adjournment motion, I'm wondering if the Senate Secretary has provided you with a list of all of the bills that I'm going to request to be messaged.
Does anyone not have the list of?
Just you, Madam President.
Oh, yes, I do.
Throwing a loop there. Okay. So thank you, Madam President. This time I ask that the rules be suspended and that we message our actions on H266, H293, H462, H505, H515, H655, H741, H744, and H411. Message our actions to the House forthwith.
The senator from Windham has moved that the rules be suspended and the following bills, which I will list by number only, be messaged to the House forthwith. H266, H293, H462, H505, H515, H655, H741, H744, and H411. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've messaged H266, H293, H462, H505, H515, H655, H741, H744, H411 to the House with a suspension of the rules. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I ask that the Senate stand in adjournment until April 28th at 10 a.m.
The senator from Windham has moved that, subject to any announcements, the Senate do adjourn until Thursday, April 28th at 10 a.m. Are there any announcements? Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
wonder if I might inquire from the pro tem. I know that we were scheduling a photograph and have to meet with institutions to talk about Berkeley's time.
Yes, we are meeting, thank you, Madam President, we're meeting at 12:45 here in the chamber for the picture.
Madam President, in that case, I would like to have institutions meet.
Senator Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Government Operations will meet immediately after the photograph, and I hate to say at 1 o'clock because I've been part of this photographing. And it's like organizing a kindergarten class to get a photo, and it takes more than 15 minutes. So we'll meet immediately after the photo.
Senator from Washington is recognized.
Madam President, Senate Finance will play it safe and meet at 1:30.
Senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Education will meet at 1:30 as well.
Senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Natural Resources and Energy will meet tomorrow morning, 8:30.
Are there any additional announcements? Senator from Wyndham has moved the Senate adjourn until April 28th, Thursday at 10 a.m. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned until Thursday, April 28th.